I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of my corner office at Solara Industries, 24 stories above downtown San Diego. Below, the city buzzed with the energy of a spring evening, sun dipping behind the bay, lights blinking on like stars. On my desk sat 2 items: my Stanford MBA diploma and a foreclosure notice for Morales & Co. Textiles, the company my parents once chose over me. "Miss Morales," said David, my assistant, stepping in, "your parents have arrived." "Make them wait 20 minutes, I said, my voice calm. He hesitated. "In the lobby?" "In the lobby," I confirmed, just like they made me wait at my graduation, before they told me they weren't coming. 5 years ago, I'd sat alone in my dorm, cap and gown pressed and ready, clutching my phone. I'd reserved seats in the front row. They never showed. "What do you mean you're not coming?" I'd asked, barely able to speak. Dad's voice crackled over the phone. "The Santiago order moved up. If we landed, it could save the company." "It's my MBA graduation," I whispered. "You know the business comes first," he said, irritated. "Business first," I echoed. "You missed my high school graduation, my undergrad valedictorian speech, every debate competition. And now this?" Mom took over the call. "Sienna, don't be dramatic. That fancy degree, it's thanks to the business." I nearly laughed. "I got in on full scholarship. Not a cent of your money paid for it." "Well, then you understand," Dad cut back in. "You, more than anyone, should get that this isn't personal. It's survival." That's when something inside me went still. "You're right," I said quietly. "I understand perfectly." "That's our girl," Dad said, relieved. "We'll make it up to you." "No," I said. "You won't, because after today, you don't get the chance." I hung up and blocked their numbers. The shy, eager-to-please daughter they once ignored was long gone, replaced by a CEO known across the industry for ruthless precision in acquiring and transforming failing businesses. They didn't know I'd already launched a small tech consulting firm from my dorm. They didn't know that each missed milestone hardened my resolve. While they threw everything into a company they couldn't save, I studied the industry that consumed my childhood and quietly built an empire that would eventually absorb theirs. Solara Industries started small, just me, 2 interns, and a vision. Within 3 years, we were known for one thing: reviving failing manufacturing businesses. I devoured everything I could about logistics, automation, and supply chain optimization. By the time Morales & Co. lost their Santiago deal, I already had eyes on their assets, and I knew just how to take them. The foreclosure hit them last month. They scrambled to find investors, restructure debt, beg for mercy. Then my firm made an offer. Now they were here. I turned from the window, straightened my navy silk blouse, and picked up the file waiting on my desk. The acquisition papers. "They've been waiting 23 minutes now," David, my assistant, informed me. "Perfect," I said, collecting the file on my desk. Bankruptcy filings for Morales & Co., and their recent email begging for a meeting with Solara Industries' CEO. "Should I tell them you're on your way?" "No," I said with a faint smile. "Let them sweat. Business comes first. Wasn't that always the rule?" The lobby downstairs gleamed with minimalist elegance: polished steel, glass walls, and curated digital displays of our latest global acquisitions. Through the security feed, I watched my parents fidget uncomfortably on the sleek, modular furniture. Their clothes looked too formal, too worn. They were completely out of place here. "Bring him in," I said finally. David nodded. "The CEO will see you now." I stood at the far window of my corner office, framed by the San Diego skyline. Several buildings in the distance bore the Solara Industries logo, monuments to the company I'd built from a dorm room startup into a $2.4 billion, 0 cents empire. When the door opened, my parents looked older, smaller somehow. My father's eyes scanned the office, the modern furnishings, the sweeping view, the nameplate on the desk. "CEO, Solara Industries." He blinked. "Sienna?" I smiled politely. "Mr. and Mrs. Morales, please, sit." Their eyes scanned the room: oak desk, executive seating, touchscreen displays showcasing data pipelines and global holdings. They sat down stiffly across from me, stunned into silence. "You own Solara?" Dad finally managed. "Built it from the ground up," I replied. "Started in my dorm during that Stanford MBA you didn't attend the graduation for." Mom blinked. "Why didn't you tell us?" I gave a soft laugh. "When would I have? During the holidays you skipped? The birthdays you forgot? Or the day of my graduation when a supplier order mattered more than showing up for your only child?" My father's jaw tightened. "Now listen here, young lady." "No, you'll listen," I said firmly. I tapped a key, and their company's financial dashboard filled the wall screen. "Morales & Co. is 3 weeks from insolvency. You've lost 70% market share in 5 years. Your equipment is outdated, your processes inefficient." My mother flinched. "And your leadership style?" I leaned in slightly. "Let's just say prioritizing business over family didn't exactly pan out." "We need a bridge loan," Mom said quietly, "just enough to update the line and retain the staff." "You mean like the funding I offered 5 years ago?" I asked, flipping open a folder. "The modernization proposal I emailed the day after graduation? You dismissed it? Said I was a kid with a fancy degree and no real-world experience?" They looked down, ashamed. If you felt that power shift too, don't forget to subscribe. Sienna's story isn't over, and what happens when she returns to the hometown that once overlooked her, you won't want to miss. Now this naive graduate owns the largest manufacturing modernization firm across 3 states, and they were sitting across from me, pleading. "We're not begging," Dad said, his voice thin. I raised an eyebrow and slid a printout across the table. "Really? Because this email reads otherwise. Dear CEO of Solara Industries, we desperately need your help. Our company, our life's work is failing. Please, we'll do anything." Silence. Sounds like begging to me. They glanced at each other, cornered. "Let's talk about anything then," I said, opening a new folder. I laid out 2 documents. Option 1. Solara acquires Morales & Co. at a heavily discounted rate. You both retire, modest pension, no golden parachutes, no consulting roles, no board seats. You walk away quietly. Mom stiffened. And option 2? Option 2. I let the company collapse, bankruptcy in 3 weeks. I buy it at auction for even less. You walk away with nothing. No legacy, no factory, no name. "You'd do that to your own parents?" Dad snapped, cheeks reddening. "Business comes first," I replied coolly. "Isn't that what you always told me?" "We were building something for you," Mom insisted. "No," I said, standing. "You were building something for yourselves. And you failed at the business and at being parents." I walked to the display case behind my desk. Inside, framed together, my Stanford MBA diploma, my first business license, and the original acquisition contract that launched Solara. "You have 24 hours to decide." Before they could answer, I tapped a remote. The wall screen shifted to a photo. 2 empty chairs marked with their names in a Stanford graduation hall. "It kept this as a reminder," I said, "of how it felt when business came before family. Think about that while you make your decision." 6 months later, the old Morales & Co. factory was unrecognizable. Outdated equipment had been replaced with sleek automation systems. The floor buzzed with retrained staff. Production efficiency nearly tripled. But the biggest change? The corner office. My parents now worked under me as junior operations consultants. Their names weren't on the doors, their titles carried no power. "Miss Morales," David said, peeking into my office. "Your parents' quarterly review is due. Send them in." They entered cautiously, dressed in Solara's standard attire. Charcoal blazers, no frills. Gone were the designer suits, the self-importance. They sat down with a humility I never thought I'd witness. "Let's begin," I said, pulling up their performance dashboards. "We'll start with your first 6 months under new management." Dad cleared his throat. "The modernization program. It's impressive, the systems you've put in place. Everything you suggested 5 years ago. You mean, I interrupted, everything you dismissed because real manufacturing didn't need fancy computers? How's that working out now? I asked, my tone even. Mom shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The productivity numbers, they speak for themselves. We were wrong, Dad added, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. Mom folded her hands. Sienna, we know we made mistakes, with the business and with you. Miss Morales, I corrected, folding my hands. And yes, you were wrong. About the business, about modernization, but most of all about priority. I turned my monitor to face them. Do you know what this is? They leaned in, studying the screen, columns of dates, names, and brief descriptions. It's a list, I said, of every meaningful event in my life you missed for Morales & Co. My debate championships, honor society inductions, my college and MBA graduations, and next to each one, the meeting, supply delay, or critical crisis that apparently mattered more. Dad opened his mouth to defend himself, then shut it again. He knew I was right. We thought we were doing the right thing, he said finally, trying to secure something for your future. You weren't building it for me, I replied, rising from my chair and walking to the wall of framed documents behind me. You were building it for yourselves, and while you were missing my milestones, I was building this. I pointed to the frames. My Stanford MBA, my business license, Solara's first major acquisition. Every award earned with discipline and sacrifice, none of it funded by them. I built Solara from my dorm. I worked twice as hard, with no safety net, but I promised myself one thing. Every time you chose business over family, I would find a way to do both. We've noticed the culture here, Mom said quietly. You run this place so differently. The employees, they adore you. Because I lead with balance. I reward results without punishing humanity. I studied your mistakes and made them my blueprint. Just then, David appeared at the door. Miss Morales, the new contracts are ready. Perfect. Bring them in. He handed me 2 slim folders. I slid them across the desk. Go ahead, I said. Open them. They flipped through the pages, confusion softening into surprise. These are real contracts, Dad said, eyes wide. Full-time? 5-year terms, I confirmed. Senior manufacturing advisors. The compensation is fair. The hours are structured. You'll report to a department head, not me directly. Mom looked at a highlighted clause and frowned. What's this about mandatory family attendance? I smiled. All Solara staff with family receive paid time off and are expected to attend family events, birthdays, graduations, retirement dinners. And that includes mine. But why? Dad asked. Because I remember what it felt like when my seat sat empty. I remember looking into a crowd and not seeing the people who were supposed to cheer for me. That ends here. I paused, then added, dinner is at my place this Sunday, monthly company tradition. Employees bring their families. We celebrate life outside the office. They exchanged a look. When do we start? Dad asked, almost shyly. You already have, I replied, standing and walking them to the window. Below us, the revitalized factory floor buzzed with renewed energy, machines humming, teams collaborating, systems flowing. For 6 months, you've been watching what real leadership looks like, I said softly. But now comes the hard part. Learning what real family looks like. Her mom's voice cracked. We'd like to try. I nodded. Good, because I believe success isn't measured in contracts signed or factories owned. It's measured in what you build that lasts beyond you. They turned to leave, clutching their contracts like something sacred. As they reached the door, I heard Dad whisper, she built an empire doing everything we said couldn't be done. No, I murmured, eyes still on the golden sunset over the Solara Industrial Park. I built it by doing everything you should have. By valuing people. By choosing innovation over ego. By never missing the moments that matter. They used to call me too sensitive, too ambitious, too much. But the truth is, everything they dismissed in me, the heart, the hunger, the need to be seen, was exactly what built Solara. If you're still reading, if any part of this story made you feel something, drop a comment below. I want to hear from you. Tell me where your own turning point came. Share the moment you realized you had to stop shrinking to fit into a version of success someone else defined. And if you haven't had that moment yet, let me be the first to tell you, you don't need anyone's permission to rise. You don't need a perfect start or the approval of people who never saw your worth. You just need your own voice, a plan, and the guts to keep going even when the people closest to you choose something else over you. I built this company not out of revenge, but out of a promise I made to myself, that I would be the leader I never had, the daughter they underestimated, and the woman who proved that empathy and power are not opposites, they are partners. If you believe in that, in me, hit that subscribe button. Not because I need the numbers, but because I want to build a space where stories like mine, like ours, are told without apology. And here's my advice, the thing I've learned through every deal, every lonely celebration, every hollow "we're proud of you" that came too late. Don't wait for validation. Build what they said you couldn't. Celebrate what they said didn't matter. And when you get to the top, leave the door open, make room at the table. And never forget that the true legacy isn't the company you build, but the people you lift along the way. I'm Sienna Morales, CEO, daughter, survivor, builder. And this isn't the end of my story. It's just the chapter where I finally get to write the terms. If you're ready to write your own, subscribe, comment, and come back, because next time, I'm telling you what happened when the investors who rejected me came knocking.